Nigeria's aviation sector is facing a plethora of issues. Jet fuel price spike, FX illiquidity, 30% of travelers underserved, airlines operating at 38.8% of fleet capacity, aero contractors temporarily suspending its operations, Dana Air's license revoked by regulators. In addition to that, most recently, Emirates Airlines announced it would suspend flights to and from Nigeria effective September 1st, citing $85 million trapped in the nation that it's unable to repatriate. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, chimed in, where they sent out a tweet saying that they were disappointed with the situation. There it is, saying that they've had many warnings that the failure to restore timely repatriation will hurt Nigeria with reduced air connectivity, proving to be true with the withdrawal of Emirates from the market. As of July of this year, IATA says that about $464 million is trapped in Nigeria. Other sources say that figure has risen to $600 million, with the Vanguard talking to some sources saying that figure could rise to as much as $1 billion by the end of 2022. Nigeria's House of Representatives is scheduled to meet with aviation stakeholders. In a statement issued on Friday, Yahaya Danzaria, clerk to the House of Representatives, said the House was making arrangements, and the invitees include the individuals on your screen: the Minister of Finance, Governor of the Central Bank, the Special Advisor to the President on Ease of Doing Business, Minister of Aviation, the Director General of the NCAA, and also representatives from IATA and the Emirates. We also have our own stakeholders in the studio with us to discuss this. In our Abuja studio, Professor Obiora Okonkwo is the chair, United Nigeria Airways, also the spokesman for the Airline Operators of Nigeria. Here in Lagos, Sindy Foster, she's the principal managing partner, Avaero Capital Partners. We've also got Mr. Tayo Ojuri, senior partner, Aglow Aviation, and of course, Chika Mbonu, Arise business analyst. Chika, you're all very welcome. Professor Okonkwo, let's start with you in Abuja. You've have been in other meetings in the past with government. Do you expect anything to come from this particular meeting if and when it happens?
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes, we've been in other meetings with government, especially the House of Reps, the chairman of Aviation Committee. They have been quite proactive in responding to issues that concern aviation, having known that it is an essential sector with some national security implications. So I'm not surprised that they responded to this new development. So what will happen will depend on the content of the discussion, because for me, using the big headline trapped looks a kind of scandalous. You know, nobody's money could be considered trapped when it is in your account, and they can do with it what they want, except that they do not have the foreign exchange component to remit the money to their home country. So I hope in the meeting they should discuss truthfully and openly what may have transpired, because if the airlines have been selling their ticket and then converting the Naira equivalent and the parallel market rate, then they should be able also to look for sources of remittance, not only from the Central Bank of Nigeria, because there are other windows like the I&E window, which they are free to source into. So I hope that is not a case of wanting to transmit from the CBN at official CBN rate when their rates are sold at the parallel rate. But you know, it is for everybody's interest that we give every investor, any operator in Nigeria in whatever sector, comfort and ease of doing business to be comfortable. But I think really the word trapped is too strong to be used for the situation which we are facing now, because the money is in the account and they can do with it what they want, you know, but not necessarily that they can access it. Because my understanding of trapped fund is what is there, you can access, you can have it. So that's the situation. So I hope this meeting will be fruitful and something will come out of it to be a win-win situation for both Nigeria and the Emirates.
Thank you so much for that, Professor Okonkwo. I want to come to our other panelists to weigh in. Here is a quote from the spokesman of the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, who says that Emirates' demand is legitimate. If you travel to another country to put up an investment, you will need to transfer your money back to your country. The airline is running a business. The government may need to invite them for talks and look for a way of assisting them in managing this investment. That's Sam Aduroboye of the NCAA. Sindy, what do you think the solutions are here as far as managing the development?
Well, the first thing they need to do is find a way to release these funds. Emirates is a commercial operation. They invested their time, their money, their resources into Nigeria. They could have deployed those resources elsewhere. They chose to deploy them in Nigeria. It's completely unreasonable for an airline to invest in Nigeria and then not be able to repatriate their funds for months and months on end. There are issues with what is happening with the BASA royalties, what's the size of the BASA fund. These are supposed to help with the development of the aviation sector in Nigeria. We've got an airline who needs dollars. We should have dollars in a BASA fund. We should have money which could be used from within the aviation sector, which can be converted to the purpose that Emirates have. The Emirates are not asking for Nigeria's money, they're asking for access to their own funds. If they had been allowed to sell those tickets in dollars in the first place, they would have had the ability to repatriate their money. But because of the CBN regulations, they were forced to sell in Naira. And now, against the terms of BASA, they're not able to repatriate those funds on demand. So something needs to happen so that Emirates and the other airlines are able to do that. Imagine if the boot was on the other foot and it was a Nigerian airline that was strapped for cash over this long period of time. We would all be outraged and, calling foul. But instead, there are some people supporting the action, the position that we're in at the moment, which is completely unreasonable.
Mr. Tayo Ojuri, thank you, Sindy. Tayo, what's your take on the matter?
Well, like Cindy rightly said, it's not just Emirates, it's all the airlines across the board, all the international airlines. And this is not good for, as I said as well, it's not good for business in Nigeria. It's not good for our roadmap of being a hub in the future. It's going to affect jobs in the long term. It's going to affect the ground handling companies, the jet A140ers, all the ancillary service providers across board. So what should be done, and what we're reneging at this point, is we're reneging against our the bilateral agreement which was signed. That bilateral agreement just has a fixated clause. It's clause in Article 15 that once you have that payment made over a certain periodic time, the funds should be actually transferred back to the home country, which has not been able to be done. Over time, they've actually, it's not just Emirates, like I rightly said, but the funds have been not been able to be transferred over time. It's actually going to be 464 million as at today, or as at the end of July. But this would affect the existence of other airlines, or other airlines having to come to Nigeria. But what they've done, actually, they've seen either they've increased their prices, which is very exorbitant, and putting air travel on the exclusive list of travelers. And then you're pushing, the alternative is they're pushing passengers to a special URL to go and actually have to buy their tickets, to go and source their dollars at the parallel market and buy their dollars for that, so that can get their money for tickets paid real time.
Thank you, Tayo. Chika, please, your thoughts on this.
Okay. Interestingly, I think I would take a little different, not a little different, but a little more holistic view. I respect the terms of BASA. That when you sell a ticket in a country, local currency, you should be able to remit your tickets back to your home country. I will even talk about BASA down the line as the interview goes on, because a lot of times we look at BASA, interpret it selectively as he's coming for us. But that's not the issue. My point this morning is that what is happening to Emirates is not unique to the airlines, foreign airlines. And I say with all seriousness, and I'm hoping that the members of the House will hear and listen to me, and those in government. is not unique to the foreign airlines. The manufacturers in Nigeria have been screaming and crying about the paucity and lack of foreign exchange for a long time. Domestic airlines have been crying for lack of foreign exchange to buy spares and pay their leases and buy new aircraft. Individuals have been crying for foreign exchange to pay the school fees of their kids and medical expenses. Foreign portfolio investors have been crying for remittance of their investments they made in Nigeria. The bigger issue, therefore, is the fact of the country does not have this foreign exchange. And it's not as if the country had an exchange and they didn't want to remit for the airlines. Every sector in the country has been suffering this challenge of lack of foreign exchange. And that's the issue. And so, the overhang there is this so-called CBN dollar. Because I hear everybody saying CBN should do something. CBN should do something. And I say with all the professionalism in me, CBN does not print dollar. CBN can only share the dollar that is available Nigerian ends. And so if there were people in the House of Reps, my focus today or this week should be on how do we get our dollars. We have been screaming and shouting on this session that the Nigerian men blood for foreign exchange, oil, we are not meeting our quota. Our quota is supposed to be 1.8 million barrels a day. We barely do 1 million barrels a day because of, people are stealing our crude. No panel has been set up. No hearing has been done. But because of the profile of Emirates Airlines, they can speak up loud. And as I said, my manufacturers also have been crying. Everyone have been crying for foreign exchange. And no panel has been done by the House of Reps. Now, Emirates has the right profile, right branding. They can scream very well. Our senior members of the House love their flights to Dubai, and they don't want to be denied that. And so that's why this is holding. But the bigger issue for me is what? Nigeria does not have the foreign exchange to share. And it's not as if dollars were there and they were suspended or hidden or blocked. This issue of trapped fund, blocked fund, these things are not blocked. The truth is that if you want to, the issue is CBN dollar. That's the issue. And I'm going to hold the airlines accountable down the line because a lot of them are selling tickets now at exchange rate of 820 to the Naira. And they want to remit dollar at CBN rate of 4 something. So we need to have that in the back of our mind. So let me have that, put that as my intro. And then down the line, I think I'll make other comments on this.
Thank you for that, Chika. I want to come to the capacity of local airlines to be able to meet the demand if Emirates, or eventually, if and when they do suspend their flights come September 1st. There's a tweet from former Senator of Bayelsa East, Ben Murray Bruce, if you can take a look at that. Professor Okonkwo, I'll come back to you with this. Where he says that this is an opportunity for foreign airlines. Yes, now that foreign airlines are leaving the country, now is the time we enhance our local carriers to fly internationally. Now is the time to show patriotism. I think he continues in a second tweet where he says that if necessary, a law must be passed to compel public servants to fly on national carriers. Anything outside of this is instant dismissal. Only exception is if the national carrier doesn't fly that route. And then finally, he used a call to order where he says, and when this call to action, rather, when this happens, if you see any government official flying any foreign airline on a route that a national carriers fly, snap a picture of them and shame them. Enough is enough. Professor Okonkwo, I also want to ask you about the capacity of local airlines to be able to fill in this gap, just using COVID support. I think we have these figures where Emirates alone got about $4 billion from the government of the UAE, and the equivalent, Nigeria, gave out 4 billion naira to the entire industry. So, if we want to have a conversation about the capacity of local airlines to fill that gap, again, going with Ben Murray Bruce's tweets, Professor Okonkwo, do you think that is possible? Can that happen in the near to long term?
Well, I thank my dear friend Bruce for his patriotic view, but I really think that issue of what you fly should be a matter of choice. It's not a thing of law. But I have no doubt that if airlines are supported locally, they will be able to make those foreign trips. Air travel all over the world is the same. You have IATA, we are members of IATA. A good number of airlines here have IOSA certification. What you do here is what you do everywhere. The only thing now we are lacking here is the capacity to procure the equipment and then fly. Air Peace is well positioned to do this, but in most places they fly, they are being politicized, and then nobody, obviously, over in those countries are calling their parliament for a meeting or anything like that. But, however, we have the know-how, we have the knowledge, and we have the capacity to do that. That's why we've been crying for the funding and support for the domestic carriers here. Take, for instance, talking about 5 billion, actually, not 4, 5 billion Emirates received recently from the government to cushion the effect of the aviation fuel. Post-COVID, they got about 1.6 billion US dollars just for support. The 4 billion you mentioned here was the only thing that came to over 10 operators, including even the ground handlers, the car hire service. It's nothing. So for Nigerian operators to be on for a very long time after COVID, we deserve some kudos. However, I want to maintain that the way some people are talking about this draft fund seems like, or make it look as their money is confiscated and they can't take it out of the country. That's not true. These tickets are being sold at exchange rate of 820 naira. So there's no justification to come back again and want to transmit money at 400 and something naira. We also are affected, but then maybe we are more patriotic. Emirates and other airlines should try to, show some love to Nigeria in this our trying time. They never complained before now. CBN did not stop anybody from taking away their funds. They're saying use other alternative sources. I mentioned the I&E window, but the official exchange rate being given by CBN is not enough. Like Mr. Mbonu talked about, we suffer it. Sometimes we don't even get $50,000 to import basic spare parts or even pay for our training overseas. But we keep on hanging in there because we are patriotic Nigerians. So we need love from them now rather than scandalizing our institution like CBN or blackmailing. Yes, IATA has to protect their own. Their word is powerful. We've had them. They will say that because they are members of IATA. But BASA, this has nothing to do with going against the BASA rule, because if the government had a policy that all your money made in Nigeria remains in Nigeria, don't touch it, don't take it anywhere, then we should have concern about violation. So please, my plea to the Emirates and other airlines is that take it easy. We want you to do business smoothly, easily here in Nigeria, but we've had enough scandal and having the bad headlines all over the world that this should not be one of them. This money is not trapped. This money is not confiscated. Just get down and then look for where to get money.
All right, thank you,
President. And at the rate which they are selling, if the local operators are selling at this rate, probably wouldn't be crying. We can easily go to any market and source our money and get doing what we're doing. But we know if we go that high, then the local poor public will not be able to travel, and then the airports and planes will be empty, and we'll be forced to close shop. That's what we don't want to happen.
All right.
But do we have the capacity? Yes. With the equipment and the support, we can get there.
All right. Now, I noticed both Sindy and Ojuri were shaking their heads there. So, Sindy, what's, again, on the matter of local capacity, and then I'm not sure what you want to respond to that Professor Okonkwo said. Please, go ahead.
Okay, 2 points. The Fly Nigeria bill, which is something which was put forward back in 2008, is being promoted by OAL law firm, has not had the support of the industry stakeholders. So it's about time. I've been pushing this for some months. It's about time that we got behind this bill. I don't see why we need to wait for the national carrier to get behind that bill when we have a flag carrier, Air Peace, who are flying to international destinations. They were competing with South African Airways on the Johannesburg route. They didn't get the support from the Nigerian political community, and so therefore they pulled out of that route. They couldn't get visas, but I'm sure a lot of Nigerian people using public money were travelling on South African Airways. So I think that we need to get behind it, but stick with it. So that's one point. The other thing is we're talking about the international airlines selling the tickets at a high price. They're selling it at a high price now because they couldn't get their money at the lower rate for like 8.5 months. They weren't selling it at that rate 8.5 months ago. So for anybody to suggest that that is what they're doing is misinforming the public. That's not the reality on ground. And it's completely against the BASA agreement. You can't sign an agreement and say that you can repatriate your funds, convert and repatriate your funds on demand, and then you don't allow people to. So, and why would you be pushing people to a parallel market? I absolutely don't understand this. There's no country in the world that you'll go to and somebody is basically challenging you via what technically is a legal route to obtain your legally earned funds. Doesn't make sense. And the reason why the parallel market is doing so well and seems to have so much funds that they're saying that this $464 million can be converted on the parallel market is because there is a complete disconnect between the value of the Naira at the CBN official rate compared to what the market says it is. So we've heard that some people are obtaining CBN funds at a lower rate, then selling it on the back market, which is creating more of a divide. So we shouldn't be trying to push people in the direction which actually doesn't serve Nigeria in the long run.
Ojuri, your thoughts? Thank you, Sindy.
My thoughts are, this is just a tip of the iceberg because it's like Mr. Mbonu rightly said, this is just one sector. It's it's actually across board, across Nigeria's economic financial sector. This is going to actually affect lots of foreign direct investment into Nigeria. Investors, let's be sincere, and people bring in their funds and they're encouraged to bring their funds at the NAFEX rate, at CBN rate. That's the agreement. Whatever investment you bring into Nigeria, either bilateral, either FDI, they're bringing it at the FedEx, at the CBN rate. So after doing your trade and making your profit and growing the Nigerian economy, and you want to repatriate your money, and you don't have the CBN to fund that repatriation, it's going to affect the cost and the time value of money and the volume of investment that actually comes into Nigeria. Let's look at the second quarter of 2022 so far. The foreign direct investment has actually dipped. And it's not just the aviation sector. We're just saying Emirates, because Emirates is blowing really hot air about this. It's not even just Emirates. All airlines across board within Nigeria, none of them, you go to the websites and try to go check their the tickets, you cannot buy it at a normal Naira price. So it's just right for us to do the right thing. We want to grow Nigeria as the aviation hub. We want to ensure connectivity. We want to make sure aviation is the economic catalyst for our economy, because this is actually going to affect the growth of business within Nigeria. So I think the capacity needs to grow. I don't think we have the capacity at the moment, because we have to understand that from the capacity perspective, aviation is not just origin and destination. You have lots of passengers that are going to further connectivity destinations. So what needs to be done is, aviation is actually a global practice. You have to have these airlines that you're in partnership with. How many of our domestic airlines have that global partnership that is able to drive that volume of travel? Even within West Africa, we have the challenges of intra-West Africa travel. For us to travel within West Africa, you have to first go to Europe before you go to Mali or Burkina Faso. So we have these challenges. But if we have a very strong regional carrier that has strong West African routes development, you can actually now partner and structure with an international carrier. There are lots of these platforms, then that will drive you as the Lord of the Manor.
All right, we have to take a quick break. We'll be back with Chika and Mbonu's comments. We continue, of course, this special panel discussion on Nigeria's aviation sector. It's the Global Business Report. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Arise News, where we have our special panel discussing Nigeria's aviation sector. Once again, we have Professor Obiora Okonkwo, Chair, United Nigeria Airways, also the spokesman of the Airline Operators of Nigeria, Sindy Foster, Principal Managing Partner, Avaero Capital Partners, Mr. Tayo Ojuri, Senior Partner, Aglow Aviation, and Arise Business Analyst, Chika Mbonu. Chika, so right before we went to break, Mr. Ojuri had his comments, and please,
Sindy spoke, and then Ojuri spoke. And I just want to make some comments on the issue of capacity.
Yes.
And, you know, it's like, if I respond to the comments of my brother here, it's like you see a fresh graduate and you just tell the fresh graduate, oh, we need you to, we want to employ somebody who's 10 years experience, you don't have it. How would, the graduate ask you, how will I have the experience if you don't employ me?
Right.
See, and I'm speaking to, again, I will hope the members of the House of Rep will hear me, so they can focus on the key issues important for our country. And that has to do with local content and local support for our airlines. Now, Sindy has spoken so much about BASA in making this claim about how is it that you sell this and you don't remit your money. But you see, BASA operates on the principle of reciprocity. And whereas, as I said from the beginning, that we need to, if you sell ticket and we need to remit, I need to also look at other issues that have to do with BASA. And it has to do with the aviation politics. The aviation politics. Let me give you some examples, and we can validate this somewhere. Arike, when Arike was doing Lagos-London, you know, they had 7 slots. And they wanted to do Abuja-London. Abuja-London. They were refused slots in London because of competition. It's allowed. You don't have to block your enemy. You know, block your enemy from coming there. It's allowed. But remember, BASA, that you quote on the basis of your fee or your tickets not coming in. Also, you have to remember about it when you're talking about slots. Do you know that Arik, that time the Minister for Aviation was Stella Odua. She wanted to push BA to be landing in Enugu or Calabar if they didn't want to Arik to land in London. And so what happened ultimately was she was meant to allow him to go. Adik had to buy $1.5 million slot for a year from BMI to land in London. Now, hear this again. This Emirates that's complaining about their remittances. They were doing 2 frequencies per day. That's 14 frequencies in a week to Nigeria. And by the time that APs wanted to do, you can check all these things, please, facts. APs wanted to do their flights into Dubai. About 3 weeks to that, they applied. When APs wanted to go to Dubai, they applied to get 3 slots. That's 3 flights in a day from Lagos to what? London. Why? To kill APs. That hasn't even started. Now, again, why hasn't APs gotten a slot to London? Because of aviation what? Politics. During the COVID time, BA and Virgin, they were killing Nigerians with airfares, and APs wanted to go and evacuate Nigerians from London. Finally, an empty plane lands in London. Do you know how many dogs they unleash on that airplane? Just to frustrate passengers or frustrate people from, you know. So aviation policy is allowed. But as we are balancing this, let's talk about the whole balance. The principle of reciprocity. How do you want them to develop the route if they're not allowed to go on that route? And then, let me speak to the Nigerian. Every year we cut our budget. We are on deficit budget. We are borrowing to finance our budget, including the salaries of all these members in the House of Reps and the Senate. And then what happens now is that all these airlines, all these people, when they're traveling, is Emirates they fly. Meanwhile, if you have flown APs to Dubai, you will not fly another airline because their service is Class A. And AP stands for Asman Air, it stands for Max Air, it stands for any other airline that's qualified for that route. It is in patronizing them regularly that they will build up the capacity and build a network. Not when they're having 10 passengers for a 300 or 400 passenger plane. It's not that. Even Ethiopian Airlines, look at Ethiopia, with all the most modern 787 they have, A350 they have, A320 Neo they have, all the modern planes they have. Remember, Ethiopia has about $85 million stock also in this this so-called block fund.
Yeah.
So to build capacity, you need to let our airlines fly the route. The government needs to support them. All our taxes are funding the House of Reps, the civil servants, and so on and so forth. Please, with respect to the, Professor, my brother, Professor Okonkwo, please, I respect you on that, but the issue is that those who are paying, who are flying with our tax money, should be made to patronize Nigerian Airlines on those routes. That's how economies are developed. If I stretch it a little further, please, and I'm a pro-Nigeria in this respect. Innocent was able to sell vehicles in Sierra Leone. The same vehicles that members of House of Reps and Senate refused to use. Rather, they go and buy Toyota and take the jobs to Japan. We must, as a nation, start patronizing our own. And that is how our airlines, APs, Asman Air, Max Air will build capacity on those routes.
All right, thank you for that, Chika. I want to quickly move to jet fuel. IATA, in their weekly economic report, puts up the fact that, according to the chart, that jet fuel seems to be trending downwards just a little bit. You can see that as far as the yellow bar there at the top right of the right-hand side of the screen. However, the prices are still very high. My next question, Professor Okonkwo, I want to start with you. How can airlines in Nigeria diversify their revenue streams in order to try to shield themselves from these high prices? They've already doubled their prices for tickets, but are there any other avenues through which you can diversify revenue streams for domestic airlines?
Possibly there could be, but I really want to correct one erroneous impression. Funds from CBN is only one source of transfer. I&E window, import and export window, its parallel market is legitimate. It's allowed, and anybody funding from there is not doing anything wrong. So one of the speakers here has said something to the contrary. I have to make that clear. The airlines here, what we are trying to do is to, as much as possible, be prudent. We can't continue increasing our air tickets to make extra money, because if we outprice ourselves from the market, the passengers will not be there. And when the passengers are not there and they don't have enough capacity to fly, you are losing money. So there's no magic about it. The cost of Jet A1 has to be effective. And we still believe in aviation industry. I'm speaking for AON. At 1,000 naira is speculative. It's racketeering. Even at the official rate of 600 and something naira per dollar, importing all these things from overseas, you can still get it at the pump price less than 500 naira. Government should do something about it. So for us, we're in a big fix because you have little or no room to maneuver. But I think that I made the first call before this whole thing became a national issue, that there is crisis coming and that aviation is a national security sector. It must be treated as so. We don't need to jump into it when problem arises. The government can make a policy and say from 24 months from today, we must have to support our local airlines, 2, 3, 4, to be able to compete in the international market. Talking about how much you have to repatriate to foreign airline is just like talking about consumption, importation without producing. There's no big deal in all these things. Like one of our brothers here has said, Airline has all the aircrafts. Airline has, APs has aircraft to take off here and land in China without fueling. Why don't we have the slot? Why are they not flying? We should be able to have a plan, make it like 24 months from now. What do 2, 3, 4 airlines need to get going? That can be planned, all right? And with that, all this money we're talking about repatriation will remain in Nigeria. Only thing we should need out of it is money to do spare parts, to service the aircraft. We can do that. And what can I tell? One thing I can tell you, you can take it to the bank. Emirates is not going anywhere. They will come back because they're making a lot of money out of this route. We want them to be here, but we want as much slot as we need in their own place. They can close down for 2, 3 weeks, but they can't afford not to operate in Nigeria. All right. So, and I think that one man's meat is another man's poison. Maybe if they stop going to Dubai, then AP should be given 10 slots or 20, because Emirates is coming about 21 times into Nigeria. Let them give it to APs. And I can assure you in 6 weeks, APs will take it over, and then when they come back, they will not have any passengers to carry anymore. So this might be a good opportunity for us to sit back, reorganize, support our own. And that's why we in AON still believe that the way the national carrier is structured will keep us in the same situation. Because when you get in an aircraft on the ACMI, every month you should be talking about repatriation of funds. We want national carrier, but let it be fully Nigerian, where all the investments are by equity and money made is here. You're not talking about repatriating, except for those investors who want to repatriate their dividends at the end of the day. So we know that for airlines that fly into Nigeria, they have less number of people employed. If we are supported to build this capacity, we can quadruple our employment. And then before this COVID is on record that aviation industry was the third largest contributor to the GDP of this country. We are doing well before this, and we've never complained. So the support is what it needs, and it can take a deliberate government policy to support it. And in 24 months, most people don't like what we have. We talked about it, nothing sold overseas. As we are here, most of African countries are approaching us to come and take over their national carrier and fly to other parts of the world. But here we are, and some people can easily just say we can't do it. There's not, if you fly in Nigeria, you can fly anywhere, because we are governed and guided by the same international law.
Thank you so much. Okay, in that case, we're running out of time, so I need to quickly jump to this. Cindy, let me start with you. Nigeria Air. The Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sarika, says that it's supposed to be due third quarter of this year. So I need to get everybody's thoughts on this on the panel. Professor Okonkwo, I'll come back to you. But Cindy, Nigeria Air is, with the need for, I guess, more domestic carriers, is now the time to get Nigeria Air into the sky. And I hope we're starting with you, Cindy.
Well, I don't think 3 aircraft on a wet lease basis is going to really help the domestic market. And given that it's a new airline that is supposedly coming, we'll see if it actually does come, but they will not be able to compete on international routes for at least 2 years. So they're not going to really be able to help. They're still going to need access to dollars because the maintenance and the ACMI costs and the crew costs and everything are going to have to be paid in dollars. So I don't see how it actually helps. It's going to need fuel. It's going to be competing with a scarce commodity on the Nigerian market. So I don't really understand how it's going to solve problems. And given the mentality that we know that exists, that it won't be a level playing field, it already isn't, because there's no other airline that can enter into the domestic market on the basis of wet leased aircraft. You cannot get an AOC on the basis of wet leased aircraft. And it makes sense why you cannot, because the whole point of getting an AOC is to demonstrate that you can operate an airline. If you're using someone else's crew, you're using someone else's manuals, what have you demonstrated? You've demonstrated that you can sign a contract. That's not an airline.
Gotcha. Thank you. Ojuri, your thoughts on Nigeria Air? Is this the right time?
That's actually far out into the operational side. Well, for me, it's actually we're grappling through inflation, global recession looming according to IFM. So the model for this Air Nigeria or Nigeria Air is 95% funding by investors. Which investor is ready to bring that 95% to Nigeria? With hindsight, I'm more data driven. With trend analysis, with the bad press we've had over years, which investor in their right mind would be convinced enough to bring that 95%, and at the close of a tenure of this regime, that 95% to fund that Nigerian Air? That's where the challenge is. And that's where I see that Nigerian Air not going to fly in as at the stipulated time.
Thanks, Chika and Mbonu, your thoughts on Nigeria Air? Is this the right time?
We thought about this on air also, and I sustain myself fully with Cindy's comments. The essence of Nigerian Air, one of the objectives is to localize the investment, lease aircraft, 3 lease aircraft, fairly used aircraft they're bringing to Nigeria. And everything about this airline is shrouded in secrecy. Black box, we don't even know what's happening. And I keep saying that we have businessmen in Nigeria who own airlines now, who with the right support can build the capacity that the country needs. Between Air Peace, between United Nigeria, between Max Air, between Azman, if they're given the right environment, the right support, these airlines will build the capacity required that this United Nigeria, Air Nigeria, whatever is planning to do. The process, business model, the operational model, the way the bed process is just something else.
Professor Okonkwo, I want to get your thoughts on Nigeria Air as well.
Well, I can't agree less with those who have spoken, and that has been the position of AON. We even petitioned against that. That is not to the interest of the country. It will add to our stress, to foreign exchange. We can do a whole lot better. Air Peace before now had 35 aircraft. Do you know what it would take Air Nigeria to get to that number? Before this crisis, we have been given license to import additional 4 aircraft that would have been in the country in the last 3 months. Agreement signed, everything raised, deposits made, but we started facing some funds. If we had gotten that done, maybe by the end of the year, we had another 2 coming. That was our model, that before the end of the year, we would have had about 10 aircraft. Here we are today, still even battling to keep our 4 aircraft flying. There's no big deal in this. The game and the simple word is support the local operators. We are very serious, patriotic people. We know what we are doing. We are not even asking for free money. We don't want free money. Make funds available, and we will make this country proud. So for me, Nigerian Air, it's not solution to our problem.
All right, that's the first unanimous agreement for the entire panel today. We need to talk about something something pretty serious here. Safety, and this is something Chika and Mbonu did an in-depth report with a very, very passionate, tragic story that he experienced years ago. Aviation safety. I want to get the thoughts on the panel. Sindy, I'll start with you. Dana Air, the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, has revoked their operating license due to safety issues and financial issues. Is this an isolated incident, or are you worried about safety across the sector, Sindy?
Well, the NCAA has already started an audit of the other airlines. We haven't received the report yet, so I don't want to anticipate what that report will find. I think it's highly unlikely that the DG that we currently have at NCAA is going to want any unsafe operations on his watch. He's done a fantastic job since he entered that role. The last thing he will want, or anybody in the sector wants, is for unsafe airlines to be operating. So I think we should, support the DG in what he's trying to do to encourage the general public to feel that safety is a priority. Safety is a priority for all airlines. It's not, no airline wants to have an incident or an accident, because at the end of the day, these assets are expensive, the crew are expensive, the passengers are valued. And so nobody's trying to deliberately run unsafe airlines. I think things happen. We've seen pilots on Ethiopian Airline fall asleep. Imagine if that was a Nigerian airline, what the headlines would say. So,
thank you for that. So, yeah, that was a scary story. Ojuri, is the Dana situation isolated, or are there, what's your view of safety across the aviation sector?
It's not isolated, because every airline is going through the same challenge of Forex and Jet A1 fuel. So with Forex and Jet A1 fuel sourcing, it's NCA is just being proactive and saying, okay, if you're not able to meet all your maintenance, if you're not able to extend all these operational things, there's a challenge there. So what they've gone ahead to do is start the safety audits and financial economic analysis, which is actually being proactive. Over and beyond that, I know most of the airlines, the 8 airlines, domestic airlines are operational, have actually started what you call the IOSA audit, with the IOSA audit is the best international practice being operated by IATA. That's a self-regulated, self-training process which ensures safety in the forefront in best international practice. So with the airlines, including, I'll say this for free, including United Air, I know they're going through this IOTA audit process now. So that actually puts them in the best place to ensure that safety is paramount for them, and that ensures that their rights are to avoid any incident or accident before it happens.
All right, Professor Okonkwo, let me come to you. What's your thoughts on the safety for the sector with the Dana's case?
Well, as an operator, I want to assure the listeners that what happened to Dana with NCA is not like a quick fix. It is a routine responsibility of NCA to do audit. It goes on regular basis. Sometimes you might be boarded and then you have 30 minutes delay. NCA just showed up at the ramp. They want to check if everything is all right. We are proud to be the first airline that received our AOC under this new management of DG, leadership of DG Nuhu. I can tell you that the laws, the inspection, the regulations they offer here is 3 times tougher than what you can get in any country. All right, and like you said, we've just completed our IOSA audit. They were amazed with the quality of what we have. We don't have any fear about safety. This has nothing to do with whether there is aviation fuel or there is scarcity of foreign exchange. NCA has nothing to do with it. So if they come to you and they find anything, whether you are buoyant with money and there are issues that have to correct, must have to answer the question. So I can assure that our safety in the air is assured. This NCA is doing a lot of work. Even if we get in some expatriate pilots and captains, they have even made the questions tougher. Some of them failed these exams 2-3 times before they even pass. It's tougher than any part of the world. We have pilots from Ethiopian Airline. They failed the exams 3 times, and so many other people. And we have had calls, even flying here, to move captains from number 1 seat to senior first officers in Nigeria because they are below our standard. The standard of flying here, I can tell you, is the toughest in any part of the world. This NCA is not joking. Sometimes we feel they're squeezing us, they're regulating us, but I think it's good for everybody. So there should be nothing to worry about safety. So what happened to Dana is routine, and they do that every year. Like you say, if you're a member of IOSA, even if you're certified, every year you have to renew your certification. So we're on our edge with NCA. That's why we are assuring the traveling public that all is well with safety.
All right, Chika, about a minute ago, you get the last word on aviation safety.
Basically, there are 2 issues for me there. First thing is corporate governance. Corporate governance, the tone from the top of the CEO, as you're hearing the MD of United Nigeria speaking now, there's the kind of thing how I want or the CEO of the Airlines in Nigeria to speak. The tone from the top, that the institution focuses on safety, not institutions who will use fly the aircraft with no captain, or their maintenance engineers are not certified, and so on and so forth. Now the other thing is the fact that when your liquidity, when your working capital is cannibalized, like in Nigeria, where fuel ATK moved from about 100 naira to what it is now, it tends to eat up the working capital, and the tendency is to cut corners. And I guess that's why NCA is doing a lot of things that it's doing now. So we'll give it to NCA, and let's keep our eyes on the corporate governance on most of these airlines. I'll give it to Nigerian pilots too. I think they're one of the best in the world.
Thank you all so much. We have so much more to talk about, but we run out of time. My thanks to Professor Obiora Okonkwo, Chair, United Nigeria Airways, Spokesman for the Airline Operators of Nigeria. Thanks to Sindy Foster, Principal Managing Partner, Avaero Capital Partners. Thanks to Ojuri, Senior Partner, Aglow Aviation. And of course, our ever dependable Chika Mbonu, our Rise Business Analyst. Our thanks to you as well. Thank you all.